Hey guys, it's Nick from Hi-Fi for All again. Just wanted to shoot a quick video for you if you're either purchasing the Dahlia, just received it, or thinking about picking it up. I wanted to give you a little tutorial and just some information on what it's like to first receive the Dahlia headphone, and also just a few things you should know about when it's brand new, and there's just a few things that are gonna break in and require just some user maintenance over time. So I just wanted to show you what that's about. It's mechanical objects. There's going to be some moving parts and things that are going to change, and I just wanted to go over that with you. Just show you how to use some of the included tools that you're going to get with the headphone, and just also show you a little bit about how to use the resonator tuning system and some tips and tricks on some cool things about how I use it personally and what you might find interesting and fun about it. All right, so let's dive right in. Okay, so here we are at the bench with the HFA Dahlia headphone. All right, this is my personal set. I've had it for a while, so it should look very similar to yours. But yeah, I just want to do a walkthrough on some of the things to consider when you first get your Dahlia. There are a lot of things around the headphone that will break in over time. This is a mechanical object with mechanical features, and because of that, it's going to require some maintenance and attention over time. And so let's talk a little bit about those things. Just a quick walk around the headphone, and I'll explain to you some of the things that I've found that settle in over time. Starting with, the headband. So this headband uses a spring steel here, and when you first get the headphone, it might feel a little clampy because before I ship this out, I actually curl the spring. It's set from the factory. My manufacturer for these things, for the metal headband itself, has the specifications on the radius curve. So that generally is set ahead of time. But before I ship it, I actually give it a little bit of extra clamp just to ensure that when you first get your headphone, over time, I would say probably 2 or 3 weeks, the metal will naturally kind of wear into your specific head shape, kind of like a Sennheiser does over time, where you first get it and it's really clampy, but then over time it kind of relaxes. It's a very similar concept here where the steel will actually relax a bit depending on your head shape, and over time it will become what I found to be the perfect clamp. And so that's something that will relax over time. The other thing is the actual leather strap itself. It's made from a really amazing buffalo leather, and this was actually carefully selected by this person that I work with. His name is Laurent. He runs a little shop in Montreal called Understated Straps, and if you need a leather strap for your headphone, I highly recommend going to his site and picking them up because they're just incredible straps. They're the best leather straps I've found from a fit and finish standpoint, but also from a durability standpoint too. He actually selected buffalo leather as opposed to cow leather for a few reasons. Most importantly, buffalo leather actually doesn't stretch over time like cow leather will. You'll find, like, if you see a used headphone, either for sale or you own one maybe, and it uses a cow leather strap, what you'll find actually is that the leather will stretch out over time, and you know, it's not as durable as buffalo leather, basically. So we chose this for mostly for durability. It should be the first and last strap you'll ever need for the Dahlia. So that's awesome. The other thing is the comfort too. So like it actually feels like it's got padding. It's kind of soft and supple. And so the buffalo leather strap doesn't actually require as much break in as something like a cow leather, which may be a little stiffer and firm directly from the factory. This actually comes quite soft and supple. And so when you get it, it will break in a little bit, but you can actually see underneath here, there isn't a lot of conforming or anything that happens along the head. And I've used this strap probably for 3 or 4 months, and like it still looks new. So there's not much break-in, but there'll be a little bit, you'll notice. And some people might be concerned, like, oh wow, this strap is actually touching the metal, like, it's really close. But actually what happens is when you pull the headphone apart to put it on, you'll see that the strap actually moves away from the metal, and there is a gap there when you wear the headphone. And that's completely intentional. So the radius of that strap, as you pull it apart, that radius actually really determines the comfort and how it feels on the head. You want it to remain nice and round and not flat. Like if it was too short and the strap was flat when it pulled out, what would happen is you would actually develop hot spots on the top of your head, and that's not good. What you want is you want it to be really round even after you pull it out. You want it to be curved like that. And so in order to achieve that, in its relaxed position, it actually is really close to the metal, and that's by design. That's fine. So that's all good there. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the headband and the leather strap. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the adjustment rods. This is something that will break in over time. And so what I do is before I ship you the headphone, I actually begin the break-in process for you to get that kind of started. The best way to show you is actually, let's just take one of the ear cups out completely. And I'll just focus on one side for now. And so if you look at this mechanism here, there's actually a plastic bearing sleeve, a sleeve bearing inside this adjustment housing. And that thing is a self-lubricating sleeve bearing. It's a really a special type of plastic that is designed for industrial use cases where there is like a friction piece, like a rod and a bearing, and what happens is initially what you get is you get something that's pretty firm and hard, but over time that sleeve bearing will break down to a certain point and release its own. It's a self-lubricating bearing, so it'll actually release a little bit of lubricant that will smooth things out over time. I actually over tighten it, and then I start that process of breaking that bearing in before I ship it to you. So there will be some lubrication on this rod when you get it, but I also over tighten the set screw, and so you'll find that it is pretty tight in the beginning, but then I guarantee you that after a few weeks, this will become much looser and much more comfortable to wear. So just let that happen. If it becomes too loose over time, where like this one's actually kind of loose, more loose than I like, you want it to be basically loose enough where it, like when you put it on your head, it automatically rotates to the shape of your head. You don't want to feel any pressure along like your jawline, along the edge of the ear pad here. If you feel like pressure in any of these areas and you find that like turning the ear cup actually relieves it, then this rod's probably going to be too tight. You want it to be loose enough where it just like when you put it on, it just automatically turns and feels good on the head. And so I'm going to show you how to adjust that. And the first thing to do, and so included with your Dahlia, you're going to get one of these little screwdrivers. Now it's just an Allen key screwdriver, and what you're going to do first is just take off this strap plate. That's the first step. I'm just going to try to do this behind the camera. It's a little tricky, but okay. And when you unscrew this, it only takes a couple of turns to get the strap plate on. Don't undo the screw all the way because you want to keep that screw kind of in the strap plate, and you want to lose it. So just unscrew it just to maybe like, I would say 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 turns. Leave the screw in there, and then the plate will just pop off. And as you can see, the screw is still in there with the strap, and that's just like a really nice way to take it off. That way you don't lose any screws or anything, and the plate's still on there, and it's just easy to put back on. So just do a couple of turns until it pops loose, and then you'll see we have 3 different heat set inserts with screws. Now you can ignore the side 2 because these 2 actually contain set screws that hold the metal headband in place. So you can just ignore that. And then what you're going to do is use the included small Allen key. It should be like a really small one. And you're going to put it into the middle set screw. And then you kind of want to like wiggle it until you feel the Allen key actually go into the set screw. That way you know it's in there. And then very slightly turn it to the right, clockwise. And I would say even like 1/100th of a turn. It's like just a few degrees makes a big difference. So you want to really be slow and careful when you do this. And what you do is you make a tiny adjustment to the set screw. And then what you do is you just test the rod to see if it's too tight or too loose. So I just tightened it a little bit. And actually that feels pretty good. I literally just turned it like a degree, and like it makes a huge difference, but I think that's it. You want it to be, firm enough where there's some friction so that the ear cups don't flop around on you, but not too much friction where like, they don't easily rotate on your head. So that feels pretty good to me. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put this, I'm going to align the strap plate back on. And then I'm going to take this little Allen key again. And this is a very, a spot where you have to pay attention to. So in order to put this strap back on, you want to really be careful not to over tighten this. Literally just maybe 3 or 4 turns back until the plate is snug. You don't have to over tighten it because the strap itself isn't held in by pressure. It's actually being, it's just like there's holes in the strap, so it's actually just hanging from the set screws. It's not you know, being forced in there. So just screw it a few times until the plate is just literally like flush with the rod adjustment housing. So like you'll see it here, like you'll see it kind of tighten up. See how it kind of goes right there, and then once it's flush like that, you're done. So pretty easy, just a few turns. Both sides should be, you know, nice and flush and flat, and that's it. Pretty easy. Okay, and I would probably anticipate you're going to have to do this maybe once, maybe twice, but once you do have it set with the right tension, it's likely going to be fine for the life of the headphone. Like I've set it maybe, in my experience, you know, you set it like twice, and then once that happens, the sleeve bearing fully breaks in, and you're pretty much good to go. So yeah, so that's something that you'll have to do. So keep an eye on that. And like I said, when you first get it, it's going to feel really stiff because I over tighten it before I ship the headphone. So give it a couple weeks, it'll loosen up. And then once you put it on your head, it should just boop, pop on and feel super comfortable. So, okay, so that's the rod adjuster. Let's see what else. Oh, the other thing is you'll find that the sleeve bearing does create a little lubrication, and you can kind of see some of that. Try to resist the urge to like clean that, wipe that off. Actually, just leave it on there because that'll actually ensure that the action on this will be, you know, nice and smooth. You know, and when I adjust it, I like to actually turn it while I adjust it. It makes things a little easier to move up and down, and it also just makes sure the lubrication is like, you know, smooth and everything. So just when you adjust it, especially initially, just, you know, up and down motions, and then while you do that, just rotate it and turn it, and that'll help also break in the sleeve bearing. Okay. Let's see what else. Okay, so now let's take a look at the ear pads, because that's kind of a cool thing, right? So the way this headphone is designed to be worn, and this is really important, is that the headphone is supposed to be worn with the strap resting on the middle top of your head. And so let me just show you what that looks like on my head real quick. Okay, so here's the headphone on my head, and you can see that the strap is towards the center of my head. It's across towards the middle of my head, and what that does is it actually feels like the headphone is tilted slightly forward, and that's actually by design as well. And so when that happens, what it does is it ensures that the ear pad creates a nice seal behind the ear and behind the jaw right here. And so there, if you look at the, you know, the anatomy of the head, there's a, you know, when you wear a headphone that's round, there'll be a gap here, and that needs to be filled in with the ear pad. Now, Zach Murbach at ZMF designed these ear pads to fit this way. He designed them to have a little more foam back here to fill in that gap and make sure that the ear pad creates a nice seal. And so you want to wear it like this. And if you wear it like back, kind of like, I know I've seen some people that wear it kind of like back here, or like the strap is kind of like on the top, very top of the head, and it's kind of back. When you wear the headphone like that, what you'll notice is that you won't have as much bass. The dynamics will be a little lacking. It'll sound a little thin and maybe even a little bright. So if that's your experience initially and you're like, whoa, this sounds kind of bad, like this is a bad headphone, then I recommend initially just trying to tilt it forward a little bit. Tilt it forward so that the strap is resting a little further forward. And that's naturally just going to create a better seal around the ear. Okay, so that's how it looks when it's supposed to be worn properly. Okay, and how you get that fit is by aligning the pads properly when they're installed. And so when you get your headphone, you'll notice that there is a a leather seam on the ear pad, and there's also a little line on the ear cup as well that's been debossed into the ear cup. And what that is that's actually a little marker to help you align the pads properly. When you install them, the pad seam should just align with that marker. Now, if you're someone who actually just, for whatever reason, you want to wear the headphone a little further tilted back, that's fine. You can actually just rotate the pads probably if you're going to wear it back, then you want to tilt them forward. So you want to have the ear pad tilted like a little this way. You can rotate the ear pad off that mark, and that will allow you to wear the strap further back in the head. But I would recommend that when you're first getting started, I would recommend just like lining everything up, testing it, seeing how it feels. You might actually just get used to wearing it the way that I wear it, and everything will just naturally work. But if you do wear the headphone or with the headband further back, you can always just rotate the pad to accommodate. But the key is to make sure this like thicker part of the pad right here, which you can see is actually, not only is it thicker, but it's also wider. This area should fill in the gap behind your ear and jaw. So that's really the key. And that's what gives you that nice seal to create good bass, dynamics, and proper frequency response. Okay, so that's how to wear the pad and align the seam. Now let's pop it off and take a look at it. When you first get the headphone, it's new, and the pads are going to probably be a little stiff because it is leather. The pads will take, I would say, 2 weeks to fully break into the point where they're soft enough where they comply correctly to your head. They create the proper amount of seal, and the clamp feels good. And so I would give it a couple of weeks before you really do any critical listening, because that's really going to affect the sound. You might notice when you first get the Dahlia that it might sound a little bright in certain tracks, like electric guitars or things that might sound a little sharp initially. But what I would recommend is give it some time, a couple of weeks, let the pads break in, let the clamp from the steel soften up a little bit, and those two things should actually smooth out the frequency response to the point where some of that sharpness and brightness will actually naturally dissipate, okay? And so in order to take off the ear pad, it's pretty simple. I've included a tool. It's a little plastic pry tool. And my favorite way to do this, at least when everything's brand new, is to just wedge this between the ear pad and this little like socket area, and then just get it started by prying it up, and then just pull it off with your hand. It's pretty simple. Eventually you'll probably won't even need the tool. You'll just like get your fingernail in there and just like pop it off. That's what I do. But I think when they're brand new and they're stiff, it's good to have something like this to get them started. So whenever you get a brand new pad, it's always nice to have that little help right there. All right, so let's take a look at the inside. And so the thing you'll see right away is that the ear pad is covering the ear pad ring resonator. This is a tuning system that I developed that has a series of Helmholtz resonators in a ring array, and a lot of the treble smoothness was done developing this tuning system right here. And the headphones themselves come from me with the balanced tuning resonator installed. And the way you know it's balanced is I put a little blue sticker, blue dot there to indicate that blue is for balanced. And then if we look over here, the dynamic resonators will have a red dot. So red is for dynamic, blue, balanced. Pretty simple. Now, if you actually look at the resonator, I actually aligned the dot. So when you install the resonator, I don't know if this is absolutely necessary. It probably isn't, but I'm just really, I have a lot of OCD, and I need things to be perfect and aligned and everything and consistent. That's like one thing that is just important to me when I manufacture these things, but also when I use them. I just really thrive on this idea of consistency, making things really consistent, and so that way we eliminate any kind of like variables from the equation. So what I do is I align this blue dot or the red dot to the pad seam every time I install the resonator. That way I know that the chamber alignment is exactly the same on both ear cups every time I listen to it. And there's no variation. You don't have to do it, but I just do that. I like to do that. So here's the dot, and if you take the resonator out, you just pull it out like that. Here's the ear pad. I actually align the dot to the exact same spot on the resonator, and it's in the midpoint of the indicator on the side. So you'll see this one is balanced, and this is the version number of the resonator. So we are at Balance 1.0 Launch Edition. The plan is that I'd love to further continue to develop these resonators based on feedback, research, and do annual releases. And so that in about a year from now, there should be a Balanced 2.0. And I'll offer that in the store at a super reasonable price. And so existing owners of the Dahlia can, if they want the new tuning, the latest tuning, they can simply just buy the updated resonators and stick them in, and they'll have version 2.0. And so that's the goal. And so, yeah, I've already started to work on that, and I'm excited to, it's just a great way to keep the headphone refreshed, and offer customers that already bought the headphone the ability to upgrade without having to just like sell the headphone and then buy the newest version, right? And so existing owners get to be brought along this journey of development without being left behind. So I think that's part of the reason why I made this tuning system. Okay, so this is the Balance 1.0. So what we're going to do is I'm going to actually swap this for the dynamic resonator. And so really simple the way you do that. Here's the dynamic 1.0 resonator marked with a red dot. And the alignment is exactly the same. The red dot is in the midpoint of this side indicator here. And what I'm going to do is align the dot with a seam again. And I'm going to try to do this in front of the camera. It's kind of tricky, but I'm going to need... What I like to do is I'd like to get the red dot in there started first. Just make sure it's like kind of underneath the pad lip. And then I put my thumb over this right here and kind of anchor the pad covering with my thumb while I hold the resonator in my hand like this, like a claw grip. And then I'm going to reach underneath here, and then I'm just going to kind of work around this, okay? And then just pull the pad covering all the way around until it's fully covering the resonator. Kind of work it with your thumb too. But what you want to do is you want to make sure that the covering is uniform all the way around, and that the outside seam of the pad is just above the lip here. You can kind of feel it all the way around. I want it to be kind of the same all the way around. You don't want the seam to be like over it like this. You don't want the seam to be like too far like down or too far away like this. You kind of want it to be like, the same all the way around, and just make sure that the covering is all the way around the resonator in like a pretty even way. But yeah, once you get the hang of it, it's actually pretty easy to do. And so there we go. So now we have the dynamic resonator installed. Now the ear pad is ready to go back onto the earphone. So let's do that real quick. This is a very easy thing to do. So you just line the pad seam up with the indicator, the DBOS indicator on the headphone right there. You see that little line? Now I'm just gonna put the pad seam against that. And then what I like to do, this is my trick, I like to line this up, kind of keep some downward pressure, and then come over to the top section and push down on the top section, and then push in. And what that does is it like really makes sure that all the material from the pad is like really in the cup, and that there's no extra kind of like spilling out. It's just a really clean way to put the ear pad back on. So yeah, so I like to do it that way. And so boom, that's it. Once you've broken in the ear pads a few times and you get the hang of it, you don't even need the tool to pop it off. You can just kind of, I like to put my thumb on the socket and just like, do it by hand. That's totally cool. If you have an extra set of pads, any ZMF 110 millimeter pad is compatible. So you can actually, put different pads on different resonators and kind of explore that way. But yeah, once you get the hang of it, like boom, like literally just, plug and play. Just good to go. I gotta remember to do the other one so I don't have two different resonators in there. But okay, so that's the ear pad and the resonator. How to change ear pads and resonators, pretty simple. So like I said, give it a couple weeks for the ear pads to break in. These pads are available in the web store if you want to buy a second set of pads and have the dynamic on standby. I do offer those in the shop. I would say the pads probably need to be swapped out once every 2 years would be my guess. A really cool thing that I like to do personally, because I have a lot of ear time on, I just wear out pads fast. So like what I like to do is I take a set of like really worn soft pads that have been really broken in, and I put my dynamic resonators in those worn pads, and the dynamic resonators bring back life into the pads. It's really cool because of the extra like treble and bass energy. It kind of like makes the pads sound kind of new again. But my favorite combination is using that dynamic resonator with the worn out pads, and I like to combine that with a tube amp. And so that's been my jam lately, is listening to dynamic warm pads and tube amp. Everything just becomes so smooth and buttery and nice. And because the pads are worn down a little bit, they're really comfy. It literally feels like your favorite cotton hoodie just on your face. It's just amazing. So you get the warmth of the tubes, you get the comfort of the pads, and you get the really fun punchy dynamics of the dynamic resonator. So it's just really sweet. Let's see, what else do we have going on here? So yeah, I mean, I would say that's pretty much the what I'd like to tell you about the headphones. Pretty easy to manage and maintain. If you have any issues, obviously just reach out, click on the support button on our website, and send me a message if you have any other questions or concerns, or you have any issues with any of these adjustments or anything. Just hit me up. Happy to help anytime. And I really hope that you enjoy the headphone for years to come. The other thing I want to quickly mention is I send out a little instructional sheet here when you get the headphone, and it has all this information that I just went over. But one of the things is you can actually go to app.hififorall.com/headphone lookup, and you can enter your order number and your serial number, and you can actually find the warranty info plus the frequency response of that specific model. So that's like a really cool thing that I built that allows you to see how it measured. I do 3 different seatings per side, and I take the average of everything, and that's what you're going to get. And there's certain websites you can go to where you can like download that image of the frequency response, upload it to a tool, and actually get like some equalizer options. You can like EQ your specific set. So that's actually a really fun thing. I plan to do a video on how to do that. And so that's, if you're into EQ, then it might be a really fun way to explore different types of sounds as well. So that'll be a video I have coming soon. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the introduction. All right, thanks so much for checking out this video. I appreciate you guys hanging in. This was kind of a little longer, so thanks for your time. And like I said, if you have any questions, you can either reach out to me through the comments of this video, send us a message on our support. If you click on the button, I'll definitely be there as well. And yeah, thanks so much for hanging out. I hope you have a great rest of the weekend. It's really nice here in San Francisco. The rain has finally stopped. The sun is actually out, so I may actually take a break from making dahlias and go outside and enjoy a little sun. I hope you do the same, and happy listening.